They are the middle seat for the two players here. This is one where we were thinking their team of Keith, Ross, and Barich is going to want to pick up a win on this center table.
Yeah, this is going to be really important for that side of the table. And you can see the middle two players, all business.
Chihoy winning the die roll with players on 7s. And we'll start off here for our first game.
Love that flooded strand. Got to give him some style points there.
Tom Ross, the poison counter here, has an invitational victory with the Infect.
2 invitational. Whew.
2 invitational wins. One, one with Infect, one with Mono Red.
Yep. All
and
right.
We'll start with turn 1 Glistener Elf.
This is kind of what the games you win look like, is you just jam an elf on 1 and say, all right, do you have a path right now? No.
Well, in a matchup like this, it feels like Glistener Elf's just going to be your best threat. You don't really need the evasion that something like Blighted Agent offers.
Exactly. It's just a 1-drop, and then there's even points where if Chihoy were hypothetically playing a Spell Snare or something, Blighted Agent can be countered by more things. There's even the point where having to play it on 2 is a real liability.
Second land and a pass from Chihoy. Has not yet shown whether it's Azorius or Jeskai, so Tom, Lightning Bolt might still be on his radar at this point.
Turn 2 kill.
Would you go into this mana with it?
Easy.
Okay.
Easy.
Okay.
I snap it off. What does it do? Does the game get better if you go long?
Well, I don't know, does it?
No.
Okay.
No, if he has a bolt, you can just counter it with the other Might of Old Crozar or Groundswell or what have you, and okay.
Pendelhaven is the play. Tom will pump Glistener Elf to 2 poison, and that is all for this turn. Chihoy to 2.
If you don't have the turn 2 kill, you really do just have to play incredibly conservatively and just kind of say, all right, I'll 2 you, and save your protection giant growths to counter the other spells.
Yeah, and this is something we see a lot when Thomas plays Infect. By not spending his own mana, he's not really giving Chihoy an opportunity to spend mana back.
Exactly.
There's that logic knot right now in Chihoy's hand that just going to have to hold on. Like, Tom gets to decide when it happens.
Yep, exactly. Chihoy has to hold up the 2 mana for this logic knot and then didn't do anything relevant on his turn. So we talked about all those sorcery speed 1-drops Chihoy would like to develop. Ancestral Vision in particular is, pretty heavy investment, but Tom's just not going to let him do it.
Third land is Field of Ruin from Chihoy. He will pass back. Deciding not yet to go for something like Pendelhaven. Obviously not wanting to spend his mana main phase, but might get it on the end step.
Yeah, you could end up seeing something like that. There is definitely the point where maybe you just don't want to let him untap and have that extra point with the Glistener Elf, but really it's more that you need this mana to be available to represent anything.
Yeah, down the road it can act as a removal spell for Inkmoth Nexus as well.
Yeah, there's a point where Chihoy has the luxury of acting on Tom's end step, but it turns off a lot of the not flash cards that you'll see in the blue-white deck.
Now this is an interesting play from Tom here. He's going to go for Distortion Strike on Glistener Elf.
Love it.
Now, he's doing that before using Pendelhaven, so he's not going to be able to. Does that suggest more to come?
So basically, you're going to have to commit a mana in this situation, and if Tom doesn't have another land, there's a strong chance he just wants to hold up those protection spells.
Okay, so he attacks in. Mutagenic Growth. This is going to be 6 points of poison.
Okay, so this is going to put Chihoy in a spot where he's just dead to this Distortion Strike next turn. And think of it this way. Every time you activate the Pendelhaven, you're trading a mana for 1 point of damage for free. So with the Distortion Strike here, you're trading 1 mana for 2 points of damage over 2 turns. And that's kind of what Tom is thinking about here. It's all about the mana usage.
Now you stop here. Chihoy has kept the second Mutagenic Growth on the stack. There was some risk, right? If he had...
Oh,
now is this just lethal?
Turn 3, kill. Turn 3,
well, this
kill.
is going to force the counter spell.
Okay. Shame that Chihoy's going to die.
Yeah, and if Tom has something like Groundswell, there's just no out here.
Always was a Tom Ross fan.
Well, just have the triple mutagenic is hard to beat from a control side.
Must be rough.
Yeah, yeah. And it looks like no finisher. So the third
Okay.
one is countered by Logic Knot. So it's 6 poison crashes in Chihoi up to 8.
Tom choosing to hold a Dryad Arbor there, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. This turn is Chihoi's Supreme Verdict turn, or his Wrath of God turn, etc.
Right, if he has one, he'll make it now.
Exactly. What do? Not kill this Glistener Elf? That's not realistic.
Right, because
You have
Distortion
to.
Strike's coming back. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. This Glistener Elf's lethal.
And upkeep, it's going to be Cryptic Command from Chihoi. Tap draw is the mode.
Looks like Tom may have missed that Distortion Strike there, which is actually a very big deal because we can see he has a Become Immense in his hand, and casting that for 1 versus casting that for 2 is a lot when you have 2 lands or 3 lands.
It is missed. Tom does, though, make Dryad Arbor now this turn. I guess because the Supreme Verdict check is gone?
Yep, exactly, exactly. The big issue is that Chihoi didn't have double white, but there's kind of a point where Chihoi would have probably made it if he had it. It's a little bit of give and take, but you also just want to start pressuring a little bit.
5th land from Chihoi. Still not that double white you mentioned. Because he will just pass. He'll be forced to make some action, though. Pendelhaven can make this Glistener Elf lethal.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Let's Leroy it on in there.
Uh-oh.
And here we have Snapcaster Mage from Chihoi.
Gonna give this a yikes. This is rough. Snapcaster is incredible in these matchups just because you have to commit something to it. But having the Pendelhaven to save your Glistener Elf is really clutch.
So Snapcaster gives Opt Flashback and blocks. Tom pumps with Pendelhaven. Chihoi will cast the Opt. Damage hasn't happened yet. See if the card changes anything.
Yeah, put a couple cards on the bottom. If your opponent has a Glistener Elf on the bottom of your deck and you have a Snapcaster on the bottom, that's probably better for the Snapcaster deck that sees, a ton of cards over the course of the game.
And no more play. Snapcaster dies in combat. Dryad Arbor crashes in for 1.
Listen, Dryad Arbor is doing her best. The little Arbor that could.
Takes that point. Chihoi, yeah, that's right, 17.
So here's the next pressure point, sort of, where this is the Terminus mana turn. Luckily, looks like a Colonnade comes down and makes it so that's not a concern. But it is something that's going to be on Tom's radar during the next turn when the white mana from that Colonnade comes online. Yeah,
especially because, Chihoi could have had a 6th untapped mana, but goes to really prioritizing that second white source.
Exactly, exactly.
And here is Vendilion Click during the attack, and we see Tom's hand. It is 2 Blossoming Defense, and they become immense.
My Tom, what a defensive hand you have.
If you're on Chihoi's side, do you take any of this?
So it's a tough call because Become Immense is what actually makes this a scary Dryad Arbor, but the Blossoming Defenses are good protection spells. Right. You probably do end up taking something here. Tom's probably not playing many Distortion Strikes main deck, and that's the nightmare scenario.
Well, if on Chihoi's side, if your way of cleaning up is Terminus or Supreme Verdict already, that would make me think you'd leave everything.
So it's kind of close, but a lot of the big issue is that these Blossoming Defenses make it harder to clean up, and Chihoi might not have that Terminus we've been talking about, and if he doesn't, he's going to have to get through these cards eventually. So this is kind of an announcement to Tom, hey, I don't have a Terminus.
Not yet, yeah.
I got to do something else to whittle your resources down one by one, and this is just the first one.
Yeah, Chihoi did select one of the 2 Blossoming Defenses there.
Blossoming Defense is also a protection spell that can present lethal for a single mana, with him at 8 poison.
A fetch and a shock from Tom Ross. Wants to save this Glistener Elf, but it will cost him a card to do this. As he's going to actually go with Become Immense.
You know what Become Immense doesn't do? Counter Path to Exile.
Yeah.
So if either way...
So because of that, this is actually the weaker pump spell here.
Exactly, exactly. So, Become Immense looks great, but if you only need to deal 2 points of damage, who cares how much you're pumping your Glistener Elf by?
Right. Yeah, that's extra.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. There's not a difference between 10 poison and 14 poison.
Back to Chihoi's side we go. He picks up a copy of Negate for the turn. It's his main deck Negate.
That card's big. That card is much better in this matchup than most people give it credit for. Just countering a pump spell is huge.
Yeah, it's something that seems like will come up here if he still has a way to remove that Glistener Elf, and it looks like he does.
Big game. Big game.
Yeah, Path to Exile is the play here. With that Negate to back it up, you see Negate on Blossoming Defense, and now he's getting really rewarded for Vendilion clicking away that other Blossoming Defense.
Yep, and this is exactly what I was talking about a moment ago where I said, you know, you're going to have to whittle through those eventually.
Yeah.
Right? That's just basically turning Vendilion Click into a quote-unquote removal spell that forced the Blossoming Defense to get used, so to speak.
Yeah, and I really do like how Chihoy is playing this game. A lot of plays that you might not typically see, things like the chump block with a Snapcaster Mage.
Love it. Love it. It's all just value. It's all about time. Chihoy realizes if he gets a ton of mana, he'll get a ton of resources, which means that Infect will lose. So it's all about inevitability here.
Serum Visions from Chihoy post-combat. And because of how Infect works, I do want to take a look at the life totals for a second here.
Listen.
Look, there's Colonnades on the other side of the board.
That's true. It's true. It's a good thing Tom has another Glistener Elf in his hand, or you would just see Chihoy getting busy here.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom picking up, looks like his land and Glistener Elf. So attacking with Dryad Arbor for 2 points, sending Chihoy to 14, and presents another Infector.
Go, Arbor, go. You can technically do this.
Chihoy's hand, just a Spell Snare and a land.
Colonnade blocks Glistener Elf and outgrows Pendlehaven.
Yeah, just as a 4/4.
Yeah, this is very relevant here. Very relevant here. It's the kind of thing you joke about, but then it comes up and you go, oh, geez. Oh, geez.
That 5-mana blocker. Just to
listen, Sarah Angel ain't... Whew. I've been playing Magic long enough to not shake a stick at a Sarah Angel.
Sarah Angel on a land is a nice thing. Looks like Settle the Wreckage picked up by Chihoy this turn.
That is a risky card. That is a risky card because basically it doesn't have the benefit of being uncounterable like Supreme Verdict.
Okay.
Right? And you have to do it while your opponent is in the middle of attacking. And in this case, you end up in a situation where you can either Colonnade or you can Settle the Wreckage, not both.
Looks like Tom, with no way around the Colonnade, actually just passes.
Hard to blame him. What do? Trade your Glistener Elf for 2 -1 counters on a Colonnade? That's not realistic.
And Ancestral Visions will be suspended from Chihoy. It's a ways out, but you have to think that will be enough to push him over the finish line.
Yeah.
If the game gets to that point.
Yep. All about inevitability. Inevitability. Inevitability.
And so far, it looks to be headed that way. Tom passing again.
Tick-tock.
And this is a big one, a Miracled Terminus.
This is probably the nail in the coffin here.
Does she feel like he goes for the Colonnade now?
Easy Colonnade attack.
This is Chihoy, though. He's going to say go. Why risk it? Oh, you there's that moment where you know that he said the Colonnade attack is safe, and then he thought it was Chihoy playing it. There's not going to be an attack.
Oh, my gosh.
I love this.
Kill him. Kill him.
This is how we're killing him. We're killing his spirit first. See? You just got to...
Oh, my gosh. I mean, my spirit's dead. I'll give him that.
Inkmoth Nexus from Tom. There is a Field of Ruin on the battlefield.
So this is tough because you end up in a spot where if you just blow this Field of Ruin and Tom goes Animate Protection Spell, you just sacked a land.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that in your Celestial Colonnade deck.
Now, some good news, though, on Tom's side. Both his teammates picking up wins in Game 1. Spots where we thought may have been some difficult wins.
Yeah, and Game 1 is going to benefit these types of strategies for basically their entire team more as you kind of take advantage of people having a bunch of cards that don't play very well in the matchup.
Tom going to try to get a win here. Here's Inkmoth Nexus animated.
It is time.
Distortion Strike. That'll sneak it by a Colonnade. This should force something from Chihoy. Though with both Settle the Wreckage and Field of Ruin, it feels like this isn't going to work.
Yeah, this is, I believe rough is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Rough? Yeah, this is rough. All right.
4 mana. It's going to be Settle the Wreckage from Chihoi. And that one's a hard one just to protect from in general, out of Infect.
You basically need the card Spell Pierce, and as you may have noticed, Chihoi
Jack
has a couple of lands in play. 8
know.
to be exact.
As he does.
4 couples of lands. Unfortunately, 2 Spell Pierces of lands are untapped. And that Ancestral Vision is going to come off before Tom Ross can actually kill him. That is...
Here we go.
Yikes.
1. Okay, now...
It's time.
Wow, hold on. Don't you think we're getting a little aggressive here?
We're ending a game.
Hold
we
on.
are ending
Hold
a
on.
game.
Swing Tom down to 3.
Celestial Colonnade has been called.
And Tom picks up the cards. We didn't even get to the Ancestral Vision.
Yeah, that was a really close game. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Tom was a pump spell away from a kill there. Chihoi came back, played real patiently, and pulled it out.
Those triple mutagenic growth hands are the kind of ones that are really scary to play against from the control side. I mean, on that turn when he had to Logic Knot, you're thinking, well, if there's just a single green pump spell in Tom's hand, then we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, you end up in these situations where you go, well, I guess I have to technically go through the motions of this, and it paid off for him.
All right. So we do want to look at some sideboarding from players. Starting on Tom Ross's side, he's got 2 copies of Nature's Claim, 2 Shaper's Sanctuary, and then a bunch of different one-ups for matches. Right, really utilizing that full deck sheet, you know?
Listen, a lot of these they're going to look very different, but they're not as different as one would probably assume. It's 1 Cage and 1 Relic of Progenitus, for example. Those cards aren't that different. Same with the 1 Ravenous Trap. It's just hedging for different kinds of matchups that operate on those axes.
All right, so what are we looking at then against a deck like Azorius Control?
So the big thing you're going to be looking for is Shaper's Sanctuary and any of the cards that counter cards that interact with you. These are your Dispel, for example, is a thing that you're just very excited about. Spell Pierce is something you're very excited about. These are the things that kind of just interact with the way that they're trying to interact with you. And so a lot of what you're trying to see is just Tom go, all right, I'm going to try to kill you. Hold still while I do it.
All right. So we're seeing those kind of reactionary cards. What about something like Nissa, Voice of Zendikar?
Nissa, Voice of Zendikar is a card that you probably bring in because technically it can win on its own, but it's not something that's necessarily always going to be absurd like it can against a deck that might be trying to grind in ways that are always 1-for-1s. It's going to be a bit weaker against your sweepers and the like that can just mop it all up.
All right. So on Chihoi's side, in the sideboard, he has 2 Dispels, 2 Surgical Extractions, a Baneslayer Angel, and a Lyra Dawnbringer as a split. He has a 2nd Negate, 2 Ceremonious Rejections, a Rest in Peace, a Celestial Purge, a 2nd Settle the Wreckage, a Timely Reinforcements, Disdainful Stroke, and then a copy of Periphery Nodes. Yeah, and
Love Periphery Nodes here.
That seems strong. A lot of times when I'm playing against Infect, I feel like I need to look at my sideboard, and any card that costs 1 or 0, I just have to jam them.
Yeah, it's probably going to be fine most of the time. You're not looking to get desperate enough to, say, surgically extract things.
Right.
You could maybe convince me that hitting Glistener Elf or something is worth it, but for the most part, you really just kind of want to make your Game 1 plan better. You want to orient it more towards dealing with little creatures and less away from dealing with big haymakers like your Cryptic Commands, for example.
So Periphery Nodes seems pretty perfect for that.
Very nice.
That's actually the only cheap removal spell he has.
Yeah, so the other things you're looking for are things that Vines of Vastwood and Blossoming Defense are not going to be good against. This is something where Settle the Wreckage is a little risky because it can be dispelled. It's very costly, so Spell Pierce can get it, but it is something that can't be answered by everything.
A lot of times if Tom's hand is all green protection spells, he can be left cold to Settle the Wreckage.
Exactly, and then you're also kind of looking at Dispel here as an answer for an answer. It's sort of the level 2 of things where you go, all right, I know they're going to have vines, so this is going to have targets. So even if it doesn't deal with creatures, it will help you deal with creatures.
So for January, over our creature collection at Star City Games is the Purdukin. This adorable cat has been added to our creature collection.
I squealed the first time I saw this picture.
I like this.
Full on, just kicking my feet, squealing. It is so cute. It's smiling. Look at it.
Look at just holding off those hordes.
Look at him.
It's got such big eyes.
I'm falling into the hole. Oh my god, its tail is fluffy. Look
yeah,
how
you
its
know,
tail
it got
is as big as
spooked.
its body.
Yeah.
Spooked. It's about to
That's what-
Kamehameha its way through everything. What is it spooked by?
I don't know. That's what its tail's doing, you know? That's when you spook a cat.
Listen.
It's got it under control. It's dealing with it. The cat's
is-
dealing with it.
Oh, that is a confident smile.
You can get this on the list play mat and in sleeves and bundles right now at StarCityGames.com/creature collection.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to be thinking about Perdokin for the rest of this match. I can't. I'm coming down. I'm coming down from that. That is. Oh, I love the creature collection sleeves.
Basically, anything that has a cat on it, I'm probably just going to pick up.
Yeah, it's a problem for me.
It's like, oh, it's another cat's added to the creature collection. Guess I'm going to get some of those.
I have all these random packs of sleeves at home where I'm just going, oh my gosh. Okay, well, I could buy another pack of, Ultimate Guard sleeves or something, or I could open these. But gosh, I just can't open these. I want to have them.
If you open the sleeves, then eventually you'll have to toss them, and
yeah.
we can't have that.
Exactly. I don't want my Perdokin's edges to get frayed.
Right.
They don't deserve that.
I have this. So this is way too real right now. I have this sealed product, but I don't want to use it because then it would
then
be
it's
using
unsealed.
it. Yeah.
Why would you want?
I just want to have it. See, I need to collect things.
Especially cats that you don't have to feed them, but they're like they look fluffy. It's like the perfect roommate.
All right. Game number 2, both players keeping on 7, Tom Ross and Chihoy. Tom starting off on Pendelhaven, but no Glistener Elf or Noble Hierarch for this one.
That's kind of yikes. Noble Hierarch is secretly the best card in the deck. A lot of people don't realize it is a land and a pump spell, so it's 2 of the 3 things you need to win.
Right, you look at it, it's like, this is the creature that doesn't have Infect. What are we doing? You're like, oh, no. It's great.
We're protecting the Grove while also infecting it. It's complicated, but she's great.
Second land from Chihoy, and Tom's first play here, turn 3, is a Spellskite with no third land.
This is a real rough spot for him.
Yeah.
You really want to have a creature by now, but it looks like he has a Blighted Agent hiding out in his hand.
So when I play against someone like Tom, who's a really big veteran with this deck, and I see a hand like this that, honestly, from the other side of the table looks a little sketchy, I usually assume that it's one card from doing something terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
So, looking at
There
this side,
it is.
yeah, I would wonder, okay, what's about to happen now?
Oh, yeah, there's the whole thing where you're just like, all right, something I did not expect is occurring. There's something afoot. I don't know what is happening, and that is bad for me.
So it's like, might be like 2 mutagenic growths and 2 blossoming defenses. I'd be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, how am I going to beat that?
Oh, yeah, and then you also have a Spellskite to contend with.
Right.
It's just so many layers. It's almost like a house of cards. I brought that up earlier. This is a thing where Tom is going, all right, it might all come tumbling down, but also you got to answer several things.
Now, one way to answer it, though, is to never let Tom get a threat. He does find the blue source for Glistener, or for Blighted Agent, but Chihoy has a Spell Snare for it, and those other cards in Tom's hand won't matter if he can't stick an Infector.
This is nice. I feel like I get to do a really good, I'm really filling Ryan Overturf's shoes right now,
All right,
watching
all right.
Spell Snares
So
happen.
Spell Snares, okay.
It's just good, clean.
This
living.
is where you got to step in and be like, people should play more Spell Snare.
People should play more Spell Snare.
All right, there we go.
How am I doing, Coach? The Spell Snare is a nice card.
The thing about Spell Snare is it always, it always looks great on camera because it's always doing its thing when you see it cast.
We're watching winners play with it.
Yeah. Well, you never see a Spell Snare get cast and think Spell Snare is bad here because when it's bad, it's like doesn't get cast.
Exactly. It's a little self-fulfilling, but
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice. It's Spell Snare. It's nice. We're a little bit of a cult, but it's fine. Just don't make it weird.
Now, Chihoy showing some format knowledge. While Tom's tapped down, he Field of Ruins the breeding pool, knowing that Infect doesn't play a basic island, and
Love it.
again takes Tom off blue mana.
Love it. And it's really rough because you know that they're bringing in more blue cards post-sideboard.
Right. Now, Tom does draw another fetch land off the top, so we'll be able to recover.
It's a good fetch land, too. Love that Windswept
Windswept
Teeth.
Teeth. Checking, so 3 breeding pools, and You see Nissa, Voice of Zendikar tried from Tom, and that was met by Logic Knot.
Yeah, not having anything to get it through there is really rough. That's a big swing. There's kind of a point where you see the Windswept Heath come down.
Yeah.
You kind of got to have Spell Pierce and Dispel on your radar if you're on Chihoi's side.
Field of Ruin from Chihoi at the ready. Tom's going to go get that blue source.
It's time to make Chihoi tap 2 mana.
Looks like Endstep Tom's going to go for the fetch here. This does mean Chihoi has an opportunity to take him off blue mana again.
This is an interesting time to fetch, and it means that... Okay, for a second it looked like he just
Failed to
presented
find,
the cut, and I
no.
was like, all right, this is why Tom is so much better than everyone else in this deck. I didn't even consider that line.
that was like far down my
All
list.
right, we're making level 30 plays here. This is out of my wheelhouse.
Here is Dryad Arbor. That's
Okay,
what I'll find.
so-
no blue source.
All right, so he's not
No.
fetching. I mean,
Sure.
what does he need blue for?
If he doesn't have blue cards.
Yeah, he didn't cast Blighted Agent last turn. He didn't protect Nissa. What blue card does he have
Ah,
left?
Spellskite activations.
You know what? You're so right. You're
Yeah,
so
yeah,
right.
I don't-
I'm glad I get to
Remember
sit here
last
and
time he went
bask
to
in your
8, and then
correctness?
that was like a colonnade hit? Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we
gotta.
can't afford. We're at 16.
Yeah.
We can't.
Well, the first one is okay, but I don't want. If we activate it twice, that's a turn.
If we pay 2 life for this Spellskite, we're basically conceding.
Right. Does find that threat in Dryad Arbor. And there's a lot of pump in Tom's hand.
Yeah, I mean, you don't fetch Dryad Arbor if you don't plan to kill him with it.
I like that's what a sentence.
I mean,
You don't just fetch Dryad Arbor.
you have a plan. Either they are dying or the Dryad Arbor is dying, and those are the options.
Dryad Arbor's going to swing. Tom will Pendelhaven it up to 2 power. Chihoi going to opt. Could hit a Terminus here.
Terminus.
Draws? He does
Nope.
not.
Picking up a copy of Jace, though.
What I do like about Field of Ruin here, though, is it's a way to remove Dryad Arbor that cannot be spell-skited, which on the board plays.
Yes. Oh, love it. Love it.
And no one blinking just yet. That only pump was Pendelhaven, and now Chihoi will cast that Jace that he had found.
Yeah, and here it's really complicated what you think he's going to do, but it's hard to imagine you don't just brainstorm. Like, worst case scenario, you get a free turn,
Sure.
right?
He
This
will
Dryad Arbor is
brainstorm.
not dealing 16, hopefully.
Right, I was going to say, well, let's go back to earlier on in the game where that 7 that Tom kept that didn't look very good. Like, on Chihoi's side, I do have some concern that there's the cards in his hand are going to add up to something powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And there's even maybe a point where Tom decided to keep that hand because he knows the game's going to go forever. And you can just say, I'm going to draw a land eventually. I just need a lot of resources. So you keep a shakier hand just because it has a higher raw card count.
The cards we've seen out of Tom's hand so far were 2 lands, Spellskite, Nissa, Blighted Agent. For him to keep something that came out as slow as it did, I just feel like there's got to be something better in there.
Yeah, it's really hard to say what exactly, at least from Chihoi's side. We obviously can see all of it. But from Chihoi's side, there's a point where you're just going, well, maybe I'm dead, but what do? Never cast the Jace?
Yeah.
I mean, you do it sooner rather than later because every draw Tom gets can be another pump spell, can be an infector, etc.
And so we set up on this turn here. The question for Chihoi will be, well, if he can survive through the turn, which seems likely, Jace may not be able to survive through the turn.
That's just fine. 4 mana,
Yeah.
Time Walk, Brainstorm.
And he has the fetch land.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very strong Jace. I like this a lot. I like Chihoi's position here, which is rough.
No.
I want to like Infect's position. Trust me.
He's got 6 cards. His opponent doesn't have very much mana up. You know, things could happen.
That is true. That's true. Chihoi is certainly not in the clear. You're not tapping a bunch to Brainstorm because you have everything you need. We'd see Fate Sealing if that were happening.
And now we get some damage. Here is Might of Old Krosa and Pendelhaven. Let's make it 6 points. And Dispel on Might of Old Krosa from Chihoi. Over on the bottom table there, Aaron Barich drops game number 2, Hayden Bedsole, evening things up as they'll head toward a 3rd.
Is that 2 Become Immenses I spy in the hand of one Tom Russ?
The second one's always a hard sell. But
We have 6 cards in graveyard right now.
okay, so the first one's easy.
We have a lot of cards in our hand. You get to exile the
all right.
first Become Immense to the second one. It's a combo.
Ooh, I like that.
It's a combo.
Okay, thanks. So because that was a Dispel, the Dryad Arbor still just has 2 power here.
Yeah, it is. This is not where we want to be.
So it looks like what Tom decides to do is rather than trying to send that at Shihoy, he mutagenic growths the Arbor and sends it at Jace.
Tallest forest you ever did see.
Hits it for 4. Will Shihoy try to save the Planeswalker? It looks like he has a white card in hand. We'd be looking at Path to Exile on this kind of board.
So kind of the idea here is you might just have to make Tom use his protection spell eventually anyway, but he also has Spellskite.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to path a Spellskite if you can avoid it.
Right, if you can just instead wait till you get a Terminus or a Supreme Verdict, then the path is still in your hand.
Exactly. Exactly. Chihoy's just trying to shuffle up, try to mop it all up with a Terminus, fight for that 2-for-1. It's not like Chihoy is close to dead. Chihoy's pretty close to dead.
Right.
We have the Become Immense combo. It's not a close game. But Chihoy is looking for the sweeper to try to mop up both at once rather than having to blow what's honestly a pretty precious removal spell when you don't have bolts and the like on a Spellskite.
So Jace hit the graveyard on the attack. Chihoy completes the Brainstorm. He cracks his fetch land and shuffles away the cards he didn't want, but draws another land for the turn in Celestial Colonnade, so not any help yet.
Yeah, and Tom drawing another blue card here is rough.
Yeah, that can come back to get him. Right now it looks like on Chihoy's side, he has, we know, a Path to Exile.
So Tom actually has a Piracy Charm in his hand.
Ooh.
Which is,
Okay.
you know, if memory serves correctly, can give Island Walk.
It does have that. And I like the one of Piracy Charm. That's kind of a Tom Ross
It is a
thing.
Tom Ross thing.
You don't see any of the other Infect pilots play the one main deck Piracy Charm, but Tom's been on it for a long time here.
You got to be a special flavor of Madman to think, you know what?
Just one.
This is what I put in my deck.
See, you just have to have that read where you can just read your opponent for it's a good time to make them discard exactly one card. And if you can read them hard enough to do that, then you should play one Piracy
I've
Charm.
always said for Infect, the best Infect players, Chitaxian Probe was training wheels anyway, and Tom's no exception. We've been talking about how good he is at the deck. He knows when you just gotta cry of contrition him out.
A swing in for 2, just the Pendelhaven pump on Tom's side. Chihoy opts and suspends an Ancestral Vision.
There's also the secret mode on Piracy Charm, the old pump
+2,
spell.
-1.
Yeah. Yeah, that is
You can get in with that Spellskite. Just no, you don't even have to pump first.
well, the thing is if we draw a +4 spell,
Yeah, then it's just a +2.
4 + 2 plus Become Immense is lethal with Dryad Arbor.
Oh, so he might even have that, huh?
Yeah.
That's not all right.
Yeah, this game's close. Chihoy's
Yeah.
flooded a little bit, and it's let Tom come back into this game. But Tom also kept a hand that just had a good number of resources, and that's really what's buying him a lot of time here. Chihoy can't tap out ever.
Chihoy down to 3 cards in hand.
13, you know, Dryad Arbor's not an Infect creature, but 13's not that different than 10.
Justin Uppal on Jund taking game 2 off of Jody Keith. You mentioned both those decks can improve out of sideboarding, and they have done exactly that.
Yep. Big problem there. We're barreling towards the best thing you can do in Infect, and that is kill somebody with a Spellskite. If you have not lived that life.
It doesn't have Defender.
No, it does not. No, it has Attacker.
Tom hits in for 2 again. Chihoy down to 11. His land for the turn was Inkmoth Nexus. And it looks like Chihoy now going to start showing some respect to the Spellskite. He'll use his copy of Oust to put that one back in the deck.
You gotta.
And Tom, he's going to use Vines of Vesper to protect the Spellskite.
This is always a little risky because if this resolves, Tom can't Spellskite other spells this turn.
Okay, so right here, Chihoy could path away the Dryad Arbor if he wanted.
Exactly.
Back over to Tom we go. Is
that a green spell? Green spells are
did not
nice.
happen. Yeah,
Vines.
right?
Vines
Vines
plays.
is great. It replaces the one he just used.
That's nice, because when you're the control player, you're always thinking to yourself, how many vines could they actually have? And sometimes it feels like the answer is 5.
Yeah. That's a Vines, Blossoming Defense.
They always have it. I just don't get it. Oh, here it comes.
Okay.
The Spellskite kill.
So the attack with 2 creatures here. Spellskite attack swinging in.
It's happening. It's happening, Matthias. We're going to see it.
Oh, goodness.
We're gonna see
okay,
it.
all right. So
Can we get a drum roll?
Colonnade activated on Chihoi's side. It's going to go in front of Spellskite.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh, it's happening.
Well, Dryad Arbor's doing the damage, right?
Okay, no, but this counts.
Okay, this counts because it's attacking.
Oh, yeah. Spellskite made. Chihoi knows.
Okay.
Chihoi knows. You don't accidentally attack with a Spellskite.
When their opponent's attack with Spellskite, it's a sign that this may be the last turn.
Oh, yeah. Like Gideon Jura rolled up, or you're dead. Those are the options when a Spellskite attacks.
Block has been made. 3 mana up on Chihoi's side. And Field of Ruin is part of that.
Do it. Yes.
Become Immense from Tom. That'll pump the Dryad Arbor up to a 7.
It's happening.
Chihoi at 11.
It's happening.
Okay. Well, let's see if he can do much about it. He's got a Path to Exile. He's got this Field of Ruin. He doesn't have the mana to do both. It's one or the other.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't have a path and a Field of Ruin. He has a path or a Field of Ruin.
So it's 7. It's going to make it. It's the double Become
The combo.
Immense. This is
the
13.
Combo is happening.
And
it's happening.
And you know when you see someone like Tom play this, that this onboard Field of Ruin is like,
It's
there's
done.
no way it's going to work,
yeah,
right?
You can watch Chihoi, like, you can watch his stomach dropping going, 1 point of
Yeah.
interaction's not good enough.
Especially not if it's your onboard piece of interaction.
Yeah,
like Tom, no, he wouldn't have made the line if he wasn't dead, didn't have it covered.
That is why he is Tom
we
the
go.
Boss Ross. What a game. What a game.
13 damage in from the Dryad Arbor,
What did
sends it to a game 3.
13 damage. That Arbor dealt 18 damage that game.
As
Something
it does.
like
That's why we fetched
That's-
it, and silly
I
me to
told
think we
you.
should fetch Breeding
How
Pool.
dare you? We're,
Breeding Pool doesn't attack for
Tom
18.
Ross is the killing type.
And evening things up, everybody going to game 3s. Whew.
Oh
Okay,
my.
all right.
I need something to calm me down after that. That was, oh my gosh.
So, Tom giving a fistful of pump and protection. It's not the kind of thing where a lot of players are going to go into this game against Azorius and think, I have a turn 2 Spellskite. I don't really have anything on turn 3, but I'm gonna pump spell him out on turn 8.
Yeah, and this is why he does so much better than most people do with this deck. He understands that all that matters is raw cards. The game's going to go forever now because it's post-board. Their interaction gets better. You're not cheesing people out anymore. They know what you're playing.
Yeah, and Chihoi had what his deck mostly wants in the situation. He got up to, he flooded a bit, but he got up to 9 lands. He had multiple Celestial Colonnades. He, at one point in the mid-game, made a Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's more or less what his deck plans to do.
Yeah, and it's also really hard to complain about getting flooded when if he had 1 more mana on that, the big turn there. If he had 1 more mana, he won. He was a mana short. Can you complain about flooding in that instance? I don't think so.
All right.
It's really hard to say in those instances, but Chihoi being on the play here is a really big deal.
Yeah, the thing that I feel like Chihoi's been missing in these games has been the sweepers you mentioned. Terminus and Supreme Verdicts. The way he could that board would have cleaned up against Tom's pump spells would have just been to sweep the board.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a point where, you can have Spell Pierce, you can have Dispel, you can have Vines, but if your opponent has 4 lands and flips a Terminus or hard casts a Verdict, it's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, it's done. That's just going to answer it, and you just can't answer everything all of the time, and Terminus being a sorcery and cheap is basically going to be the hardest thing for Tom to interact with at almost every point of the game.
So Tom picks up a win, and for the Infect side, some more good news. Aaron Barich taking the match 2-1 over Hayden Bedsole on our 3rd table there.
Always been an Aaron Barich fan. Big Aaron Barich fan.
Infecting the way to 1 match win. If Tom can pick this one up, then Infect is all you really need.
Yeah. Of course, Infect is all you really need. Have you ever killed someone with a Dryad Arbor or a Spellskite?
I have never killed anyone with either of those cards.
Like we talked about killing people with plant tokens earlier.
I have done that. I've done that.
Yeah, and you know what? I like you anyway. It's fine. It's not your fault.
Look. That's like key against Lantern. Okay? That's a big part of the strat.
Oh, wow. That's actually so nice.
Yeah.
How did they beat that?
I had once played a tournament where there was we had to get Lantern, so you'd cast Primeval Titan and you'd get Colony Garden, Kessig Wolf Run, and then just be like, what do you got? What do you
You're
got?
just like, you just play it and you kind of give them the look and you just watch them slump a little bit and kind of go,
yeah. Both players on 7s here for the third game. Chihoy starting off on Hallowed Fountain, and it's going to be a Glistener Elf game as Tom has a turn 1 play.
Always been a Glistener Elf fan. Always been a Glistener Elf fan.
Okay.
Chihoy not having an untapped land here also does a little bit to say, I might not have a Path to Exile. It's a fun signaling game where you go, all right, do I want them to think I have one? Do I... Well,
how about that? That's not
there's
path.
that sweeper.
There's that sweeper. Boom.
That
Do you path people's turn 1 Glistener Elves?
easy.
Okay, that's not even
Easy.
close.
Yeah, because basically their Blossoming Defenses and Vines need Glistener Elf to do something.
Should I? Okay.
They don't just play off of each other. You have to have the Glistener Elf. So a lot of times if you tag their only threat, if they thought, all right, this is a fast hand, let's do it, and you just take it, you buy several turns in a lot of instances.
And here's a way grosser question. Should I be pathing their Noble Hierarchs?
Probably not.
Okay.
That one's close.
Oh, gosh, it's close.
If they go like Pendlehaven,
that's so gross.
If they go Pendlehaven Hierarch and
I
you
should
only have one removal spell, there's a strong chance you're supposed to path it to turn off Blighted Agent draws.
Oh, that's so gross.
Oh, it is.
I don't like pathing Birds of Paradise.
No.
Okay,
Noble Hierarch. Noble is way better than Birds.
Well, yeah, but...
I'm so ready to get lit up on the internet for saying that.
I do like red and black cards. They're okay.
Red and black cards are fine, but
They're
you're not
fine.
using Birds to cast them.
Birds cast everything.
Technically. Not Reality Smasher.
I've cast a lot of red cards with Birds of Paradise.
Doesn't cast Thought Knots here.
Turn 2, Tom Ross made Dryad Arbor, and Chihoy with Field of Ruin was thinking about fielding that away, kind of having some flashbacks to game 1, or 2 rather, but...
Would you look at that subject change?
There we go. And here's Nissa Voice's Zendikar. Opt for Chihoy. Is it going to resolve?
Oh my gosh.
Dispel doesn't counter it. Ooh.
Jataxium Probe, Training Wheels, Tom Ross.
Just looks at his Azorius opponent's open 3 mana and just says Nissa.
Call. Oh.
What?
How is Tom Ross so good at this game?
That's nice.
How
I
does
like
he just
that.
know?
You don't have it.
Oh my gosh.
You glanced at your hand wrong to have it.
Oh yeah.
Call. Here's my Planeswalker.
Oh yeah. There's. Oh
This
wow.
wasn't guesswork. He read him.
Oh yeah. He knew.
Now, to keep Nissa under control, his periphery nodes will be the play from Chihoy Yim. This one's actually pretty powerful in this kind of matchup. Though against an onboard Planeswalker, maybe it'll be okay.
Yeah, I actually think that we might have the sort of relationship between these cards crossed. I think it is more that Nissa is keeping the Porphyry nodes in check more than it is that the Porphyry nodes is keeping her in check. The 0-1s don't matter that much. It's more the Anthem.
Now, Tom's going to make Noble Hierarch and Exalt in with a Dryad Arbor for 2 damage, though Noble Hierarch's going to get taken down immediately by this enchantment.
Right, so the thought here is that we're looking to minus this Nissa and just kind of Anthem our board and start getting in that way. We're on the quote-unquote real damage plan here. So if this Hierarch dies, that's fine. We're accepting, but if we're attacking with several creatures, who cares? It is a little bit of a rock, and that's nice, but...
Looks like Chihoy can select any of the 0 powers, so Noble Hierarch will be destroyed by Periphery nodes, and he draws.
Yeah, soon we're just going to see Nissa roll down a couple of times.
Okay, so you'd rather -2 the Nissa as opposed to trying to build toward the ultimate?
Eventually. So it depends how long the game goes and how the texture of the game ends up looking. But you're going to lose resources over time anyway. So really, it's just giving Tom more options. If you're thinking you're going to be constrained on mana as it is, just deploying a Hierarchy is fine.
You see Chihoy took a glance over that Planeswalker. There is the -2 you mentioned to put a 1/1 counter on each creature. However, if Tom pluses it 2 more times, he gets a Sphinx's Revelation, more or less. He gains X life and draws cards equal to his lands. It's pretty nice.
Think about it this way. Right now, Tom is attacking for 1, right?
Right.
If he minuses, he attacks for 4, and then every subsequent turn he gets to attack for 3. That is a very different clock, and that is colossal.
Attacks for 1 with the Dryad Arbor right now. And everything's going to be on this match. Over on our other table, Justin Uppal, your winner with Jund.
All right.
So it'll come down to this.
This is a good match to come down to.
Yeah.
This match has been intense.
Both players have kind of showcased some strength. Chihoy with some great defensive play game 1. Tom Ross with some counter tempo play in game 2. And now he's just playing, some power magic where he's just forcing threats through.
Yep. And it looks like they're trying to decide if they might have missed this node's trigger. Chihoy picked the card up. They're saying he missed it.
Okay, yeah, we'll confirm that. It will cost him a plant token. May or may not be, mistriggers the judge's ruling, so Periphery Nodes will not destroy something. Tom would have the option of putting that trigger back on the stack, which he will decline.
Hard to blame him. Hard to blame him. Would you like to have a plant or have 1 less plant?
And again, we find that situation where I feel like we're looking for a sweeper for from Chihoy.
Oh, yeah, you just have so many creatures on the Nissa side of the table. And the Anthem.
Yeah, we were 1+ away from the ultimate, but Tom, no interest in that. He'll take +5 damage.
You're not trying to outgrind the Azoria stack. You're trying to outkill them.
Brutal. Here's the swing. It's going to be for, let's count it, 5 damage and 2 poison.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Chihoy looked like he had a path that he thought about for a moment there, but he's probably waiting to just be a little bit more in position. You know what you don't do against Infect? Interact during combat.
Yeah, if you're going to remove their things, you should do it your main phase, like any time that's not combat.
Yeah, the thought here was most likely just that going, all right, this damage, I need to stop taking so much damage, and then looked at a Glistener Elf that was a 2/2 and thought, wow, this, maybe I shouldn't tap out right now.
Now some fast play is going to happen here as that clock in the middle is correct. Just under 3 minutes remaining in the round. We go back to Chihoy's turn. The Periphery Nodes will take care of 1 of those plant tokens, and now Chihoy follows up with Jace the Mind Sculptor. It's going to be a brainstorm.
We're digging for Terminus. Terminus or bust is pretty close to where we're at, and it looks like we're not busting.
No, there is a Terminus there. Now, can he opt into it? It looks like it.
I see an opt. I see an opt. This is going to be tough for Tom to get through. It's going to come down to if he has any of his blue interaction.
Yeah, and it looks like Chihoy can't get the Terminus on Tom's turn. It's just going to be his next draw. Oof. But will that be good enough?
That's the question. Tom's rolling down again. He knows what he's about.
Yeah, this would be an attack for 7 damage and 3 poison. Doesn't take too many pump spells to make this one lethal.
No, and his hand has too many pump spells.
Yeah, I mean, his hand has cards. He's playing Infect. It feels like there should be enough. Here's Might of Old Krosa. He's going to go to try to pump the plant tokens. He's going for regular damage again. But to be honest, he's close enough so that he could go for almost either of them.
Oh, he absolutely can go for either of them. It looks like he has 3 pump spells in his hand.
Yeah, that should be more than enough.
Oh, yeah. I'm feeling really good about Tom's position here.
A pump of 4. That'll make 11 power on the table.
Yep, Chihoy's just trying to figure out what he wants to path. It's no longer if he paths, it's what he paths.
Yeah.
The other option might be trying to dispel the Might of Old Krosa, but that's just not particularly realistic.
Here's a swing. Chihoy says he takes it, and Tom will now go for Mutagenic Growth. Dispel on the Mutagenic Growth. And Tom's got another pump spell. Here's a Blossoming Defense, and that's going to be lethal. There's the handshake, the team of Jody Keith, Tom Ross, and Aaron Barich. Infect carrying it on both tables. They are your winners.
I'm shocked. Shocked. Not that shocked. I love Infect. It's not Jody.
But what about
Infect.
Mono Blue Whir?
It's not Infect. It's
not Infect.